All right. Looks like we are live, and I want to welcome everybody to Standing for Truth. My name is Donny, and I am your host and moderator for tonight's great Aliens and UFOs debate. I do appreciate everybody's patience. Totally my fault for the late start, but I will say the wait will be worth it because this is an excellent topic. As a matter of fact, I think this is the first time we've engaged this specific topic in a debate on this channel. And so we are engaging specifically the question, aliens and UFOs, demons or non-human intelligence. And I'm excited to see what our guests are going to bring to the table tonight in terms of points and in terms of arguments. This seems to be a hot issue these days in 2023, a controversial one. And so I'm just excited to sit back and moderate, but also absorb all the information that comes in from James W. and Praise the IM. So gentlemen, let's break the ice and get acquainted a bit before we get into the opening statements. Why don't we start with James? James, it's been a little while since you've been here. Firstly, it's good to see you. Hope you've been well, and a little bit about yourself. Oh, I think you're on mute, James.
Thanks, Donny. It's good to be back on the channel. You need to have a producer like me and Amy have that will make that will help keep everything in order, because you're the face of the channel, the presenter. You need somebody behind the scenes to make sure everything works right. But we're fortunate, we're blessed by nature with that, because Gizmo is a naturally occurring, naturally existing organism. But anyway, yeah, so I am found on the Amy Newman channel. We do shows, well, we used to do a few times a week. Lately, we've been doing one a week, but we do plan on doing more shows at some point when real life allows us. We both work full-time jobs, so we stay pretty busy with that. But hopefully, when things get a little less hectic, we'll be back more to the grind. We do topics on various theological and scientific debates that are taking place in the debate sphere, and things in general about religion, science, and yeah. So good to be back, guys, and thanks for coming, Praise.
Well, it's great to have you back, James. Certainly not your first rodeo in terms of debates on the Standing for Truth debate platform, nor is it your first rodeo when it comes to just debates in general. So it's great to have you. I know you're passionate about this topic, and Praise, I know you've put a lot of work and study into this topic as well. And so again, I'm thrilled to have the both of you here for the great Aliens and UFOs debate. Praise, how have you been? And also a little bit about yourself and your channel.
Oh, man, I'm doing good. I'm pumped for tonight. I love the audience, already active. And James, he's a great interlocutor. I've had numerous discussions with him with slavery, and, it was a good discussion with him. So I'm looking forward to that. But my channel, I usually go late at night around 10 Eastern, around that time. We usually hold discussions. And it's an open forum on my channel. Like, anyone can come in and voice their viewpoints, and you're more than welcome to come in there. We try to defend the Christian faith and metaphysics, history, etc. But man, I'm excited for tonight and looking forward to it. And I appreciate James taking out his time for this. This should be a good one.
Absolutely, I appreciate the intro there, Praise, and this is going to be a fun debate on a fun topic. Again, aliens and UFOs. So let me briefly cover the format for tonight. So we're going to be having 15-minute opening statements, followed by 8-minute uninterrupted rebuttals. And then we're going to jump into a roughly 50-minute discussion. Now, rather than the discussion portion being a real strict cross exam, it's going to be more free-flowing and organic, where James and Praise can ask each other questions and discuss the topic at hand. Then we'll have a 5-minute closing statement, and then we'll wrap everything up with about a 25-minute audience Q&A. So we will be getting everybody involved in the audience. Please, if you do have a question, just make sure you let me know who it is, James or Praise, and then make sure to tag me either at Standing for Truth or at Donny. That way I won't miss it. Okay, so we're going to jump right into our first opening statement for tonight. Praise the I Am. You get the first 15-minute opening statement. And so whenever you're ready, just let me know. I understand you have slides to share as well.
I thought James, didn't you agreed? I thought I'll go first. I don't mind. I love going first, but I thought
we had said I would, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can have, so in this debate, there's not really a clear affirmative or negative. It's just basically, hey, what's going on with the alien and UFO phenomenon? Is it demons or non-human intelligence? So James, we could start with you. There's no real strict rule in terms of who starts. So James, we'll have you start. And so whenever you're ready,
a few slides. I run a low-tech operation here. Just a few things. Let me know when you can get that up.
Good thing you have your behind-the-scenes producer making sure that you've got. Okay.
So what you're seeing right there is a photograph that was taken from what's called the Battle of Los Angeles. That was during World War II, after the United States had been attacked by Japan in 1942. Radar objects caught a massive object over the sky of Los Angeles. And for about an hour, they expended ordnance trying to shoot this thing down. They could never figure out what it was, but it was very massive and flew right over the city of Los Angeles in the middle of a war where we were actively preparing for being attacked by Japan. And still no idea what it was to this day. This photograph right here, there was a phenomenon in World War II called the Foo Fighters. These were objects that our pilots saw in the sky, metallic objects looking strange lights that would follow our planes in the sky. And they thought it was some type of Axis warning system or anti-aircraft weapon system that was tracking the planes. We tried to shoot them down. We never could figure out what they were. Come to find out, the German pilots, on the other hand, saw these things in the sky too, and they thought they were ours. So we thought they were theirs. They thought they were ours. And we still have no idea what they were almost 80 years later. We have the famous Roswell incident, 1947, I believe, in Roswell, New Mexico. Army says they had captured a flying saucer on a ranch. They later came back and said it was a weather balloon. Then, nobody really believed that. So back in the 90s, they came out and said, it was Project Mogul, these balloons that were up there to get tested in the atmosphere for Soviet nuclear debris, to see if they were testing their nuclear weapons. These balloons were up there. They did come down from time to time. At no other point were they ever mistaken for alien craft. But I guess it made a lot more sense than the weather balloon explanation. Rendlesham Forest incident, 1980. Military personnel in the United Kingdom saw a craft that was witnessed by the deputy base commander, a Lieutenant Colonel Charles Haight. And they approached the craft. They got radiation readings from a craft in the forest near this base. Strange markings on it. Very bizarre case. All they said was, in response to it, that it was lights shining from a lighthouse in the distance through the woods that made it look like there was something there. Well, the lighthouse is always in the same spot, and the trees are in the same spot. The woods are the same, so this never happened again. It wasn't something that they were always seeing these crazy things. It was during one period of time it happened, and then it went away. Doesn't seem like a naturally occurring event, but alas. 6 decades ago, in 1967, we had the incident at Malmstrom Air Force Base. And actually, we had more of them, but this is the most well-known incident where our nuclear missiles went offline after military personnel had seen unusual craft in the sky. Now, if you're aware of what was going on at the time, we were in the middle of a Cold War, and what was keeping us alive was a concept called mutually assured destruction. The Soviets had their missiles, we had ours, and even if one side launched first, we would still have that half an hour, 40-minute window to see their missiles coming and be able to launch ours. So that's why the world didn't end. We had both sides had enough ordnance to completely decimate either side. And if the Soviets had the ability to turn our missiles off, if they could just go there, send some craft there and turn our ICBMs off, then we might not be here right now. Very strange. Yeah, just another article about it. These military officers coming forward decades after the incident, telling people that they were forced to keep secret, saying, one officer stated, it didn't seem like it was unusual to the people that came from the higher up. Like they had witnessed this before. It was very almost routine to them. This photo right here is it's called the Calvine UFO photograph. It's one of the most well-known photographs that have came out recently in the United Kingdom. This photograph was actually blown up in the Ministry of Defense. That's what Nick Pope said. He was one of the investigators for the UK Ministry of Defense who researched cases like this. And then one day it just disappeared. The photo was gone. You couldn't find it anywhere else. It just disappeared, went out of nowhere. And years later, the guy who originally took the photograph found the negative, and we get to see it today. You can see a unusual looking craft in the foreground. In the background, you can see what looks like a human military aircraft. You can see there's wings on there. You can see the one that's closer to us. There's no wings there. One is made by humans, the other is not. And there's just another image of it. You can see very clearly in the background that is a military plane that is probably sent in the air to figure out what's flying through their airspace. And that is not a human-made craft. Whatever that is, it really exists. It really is there. Just because we don't know exactly what it is doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And we're having the same thing today. The Pentagon comes out this year and says, by the way, we've got these metallic flying orbs flying through our combat zones, and we have no idea what they are. Metallic orbs. These are being picked up by drones because drones are what humans use to survey the battlefield. That's human technology is drones. But where are these metallic spheres coming from? Who builds them? This is not human technology. If it was human technology, if it was a super secret, would they be flying it right through a war zone where we're going to have pictures of it and it's going to be disseminated to the media? That doesn't seem very likely. It seems much more likely this is something that humans did not build. And we're seeing them all over the place. The Pentagon, another video, flying orb, 650 UFOs being tracked. These things are not, this is not a one-time thing. This is not a one-off, a strange anomaly. We're seeing these a lot. We're seeing them more. It probably has something to do with us getting better camera technology. They've probably always been there. We're just able to pick them up a lot more often now. Here's another article. U.S. receives combat footage of mysterious objects, silver orb. Pentagon says it's not aliens. Now, why are they saying that? Well, because it doesn't say aliens on the side, so therefore they have no evidence that it's aliens. They have no idea what it is, but it's not aliens. Or they have no evidence that, because it doesn't say it's aliens. That really is what they mean when they say that. We also have videos that have came out over the past few years. Since 2017, we've seen a number of videos that have really defied explanation. There have been people who have tried, but really haven't come up with convincing explanation for what exactly these craft are that are flying through our airspace, that seem to be doing things that really shake our pilots up, that really get the attention of our military, because these are not conventional, these are not the conventional things that they see flying in the sky all the time. These things are different, and they're engaging with our pilots. Our pilots say that they are engaging, they are moving with them. They're aware of their presence. It's not an unguided natural phenomenon. It appears to be intelligently guided. more UFO videos. Very, very strange. This is Rear Admiral Timothy Gallaudet. He was actually the admiral who was in charge of the meteorology and oceanography for the Navy, one of the highest ranking people that the United States depends on to defend the country, because the Navy depends on knowing what's going on in the sky, meteorology, the weather, what's going on under the water. He said on an interview that he did on a show called The Good Trouble Show with Matt Ford that this email was disseminated of one of these incidents to the other admirals that were in the Navy. They got it like, hey, any of you guys have any idea what this thing is? And then mysteriously disappeared. It just, no record of it. It just poof, gone. No record of it. And you'd think if there was something flying in the sky that they would know about it. But no. You have David Grush, the former military officer and intelligence officer, who came out in June and claimed that while he was investigating this for the government, after Congress mandated a investigation be done on these craft to determine what these are, people started coming to him and explaining to him about a secret crash retrieval program and reverse engineering efforts that had been done. He had over 40 witnesses that he talked to under oath who told him all about this program. Admittedly, he asked to be read in on the programs. He was denied that. He makes a whistleblower report to the Inspector General of the intelligence community. The Inspector General contacts and interviews the people David Grush talks to and finds the complaint to be credible. How do you know that if they haven't actually seen it, if they're just talking to people? Well, if this is just rumors that have been going around the Pentagon, it's not based on any real program. Stories will have some similarities, but they'll start to vary. But if all the answers you're getting from different people are consistent, it really does seem like there really is this top secret program going on there. And yeah, that's what the Inspector General found when he referred it to Congress as credible and urgent. And that is not a rubber stamp. They don't just rubber stamp everything and send it on its way. That is done after an investigation, after a review, and that's what the determination that they made. He says, we're not alone. We're definitely not alone, and we have quite a number, 12 or more, of these craft that he has had access to or has spoken to people that have had access to. He testified before Congress with 2 former military officers who have their own experiences with these craft, direct experience. That's Commander David Fravor. He claimed that in 2000, when the Nimitz incident, he went up, he was engaged in a training mission, and the USS Nimitz had just installed a new radar system, much more advanced than the system they were using before. And all of a sudden, they started seeing all these things in the sky that they weren't seeing before. In the middle of a training mission, they dispatch him. They say, stop the training. We're going to send you on an actual real-life mission. And so they dispatch him to figure out what this object is that's flying in their airspace, because the military kind of likes to know what's in the air flying around their operations. It's kind of something that's important to them. So they go, and he sees a black sphere inside of a clear, or a black cube inside of a clear sphere. What that is, I can't tell you, but it's not anything humans build. It's not human-based technology. It's nothing that he's ever seen before, nothing he was ever able to identify. These objects, he said, were going 80,000 feet in the sky, which is twice as high as birds fly. No bird flies anywhere near that high. There's a few weather balloons that get very expensive that can get up that high, but they don't move like this thing moved. This thing went from 80,000 feet down to basically sea level very quickly. It had the capability of going under the water, going faster than any submarine that we have, much faster, and reappearing. We don't have vehicles that can go in the sky, go under the water. We just don't have anything that's even close to that capability. And while shadowing this object, the commander said that it disappeared. It suddenly disappeared. It shot off at incredible speeds, but it didn't just go away. In less than a minute, the military radar operator of the ship found that object at their rendezvous point. This object was telling them, like, yeah, I know what you're doing, and I have capabilities that you just don't even have anything even close to that. UAPs are in our airspace. The government claimed that they weren't investigating it for a long time. We now know that's not true. And of course they're investigating. Why would they not be investigating something unknown in our airspace? Could be very hazardous, obviously. This was image taken by a commercial jet. Now, of course, they'll say, oh, why does it look like it's taken from 1990s cameras? Well, yeah, these objects are typically far away, and they are typically moving very fast, or the plane's moving very fast, but there definitely is something there. It kind of looks like a black cube. I don't know if there's a clear sphere on it, but not a easily discernible object either way. Since then, since June, there have been between 30 and 50 corroborating witnesses who have given testimony to the Inspector General. That's 30 to 50 people working in the Pentagon with direct knowledge of this who have come forward to affirm the testimony that David Grush made. I mean, that's not a rumor. That's not a kook. That's not a couple crazy people. That's not a group of people just deciding to pull a prank and perjure themselves multiple times to say that this program is real. I do have to give a trigger warning. I do have to give a warning because some of what you're about to see, I know, is very, very controversial on this channel. And some of you guys may find it disturbing. There's nothing I can do about that. I apologize. But as controversial as it is, the universe that we know is about 13.8 billion years old. And that's what all the science says it. I know you guys don't believe it, or most of you guys don't believe it, but that is what all the science that we have tells us. 13.8 billion years old, the universe. How old is the Milky Way galaxy? 13.6 billion years old. It's one of the oldest galaxies, actually, that we know of. How old is the Earth? Well, according to science, 4.5 billion years old. So the Milky Way galaxy has been in existence for 9 billion years before the Earth, our solar system, formed. Is it really crazy to think that life in that 9 billion years could have formed on another planet, on another solar system in the galaxy? I think makes entirely so much sense that it's frustrating when people, for me anyway, when people try to deny it. But anyway,
James, 1 minute left.
1 minute left. Wow, that went really quick. Yeah. So the stelliferous star formation era of the solar system is going to last 100 trillion years. If life was so hard, so unlikely, so uncommon that we're the only ones out there, well, I would expect to look and find ourselves in a much older universe, maybe 20, 30, 40 trillion years old. The universe is still in its infancy. 14 billion years out of 100 trillion years, and we already have life. It's already here. That certainly gives us an indication that it is not as rare as they would like us to believe. Anyway, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to that. I can get more into the rest of my presentation on the level. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, James W., I appreciate that opening statement. I appreciate the work you put into that opening statement. And since it's a comprehensive topic and you guys have put so much time into preparing for this debate, I did give you a few extra minutes just to make sure you got through as many slides as possible. And so for opening statements, we'll go with something like 18-ish minutes. And so praise, whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen. We'll give you up to 18 minutes to present your arguments. As you're doing that, I will let the audience know that, yes, I am all caught up on questions. We've already got roughly 10 questions, excellent questions, and we've only gone through one opening statement. So clearly people are interested in this topic. So praise. There you go. You're good to go, brother. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. That's all we really need to get going. As long as we get that. So let's get going here. So unidentified aerial phenomena, aliens are demonic. So Dr. John Mack and a large group of mental health professionals confirmed the mental competence of UFO abductees. So Dr. John Mack, a distinguished Pulitzer Prize-winning author and the esteemed head of psychiatry at Harvard University School of Medicine, made substantial contributions to the field. He authored Abduction, a seminal work that explored the mental competence of UFO abductees, backed by a decade of extensive research. In addition to his groundbreaking book, he chaired a 4-day conference at MIT in 1992. This event convened a cadre of leading mental health professionals who collectively corroborated the mental competence of UFO abductees. These consequential findings were meticulously chronicled in the publication titled Alien Discussions and Proceedings of the Abduction Study Conference. It is essential to underscore these reputable credentials as we delve into our ongoing discussion tonight to avoid facile dismissals of paranormal accounts as mere products of pareidolia or mental disorders. And here's the book itself. 10 years where he's actually a mental health professional himself. And even in this book, he chronicles all of them. And not one of them had mental disorders or any of those problems or issues. And that is very critical and crucial for tonight's discussion. So also this is an important book. Look how thick this book is. This was at the Proceedings of the Abduction Study Conference held at MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it was an abundance of mental health care professionals, and they all convened together, and they all came to the conclusion every one of them were competent. And there's your sources to check that out. So now we got Alan Hynek and Jacques Vallée. Although Hynek passed away in 1986, Vallée has admirably carried their legacy and research forward for over 4 decades. Vallée enjoyed widespread respect for both secular and religious peers alike. For instance, J. Allen Hynek, a prominent scientist and UFO investigator, emphasized the need to consider multiple factors that strongly suggest a connection, or at least the very least, a parallelism with the phenomena of a paranormal nature. He also noted that the peculiar ability of UFOs to dematerialize or change shape, pointing out instances where 2 distinct UFOs in a clear sky would converge and eventually merge into a single object. These phenomena raise profound questions about the nature of UFO mystery. So Professor Hynek ultimately concluded that UFOs likely had a paranormal dimension. In biblical terms, they could be described as spiritual entities or even demons. He observed many UFO reports appeared to align more closely with accounts of poltergeists, cases involving objects moving around in a room and strange sounds and other types of psychic manifestations than with the concept of actual solid items of nuts and bolts hardware. So this viewpoint challenged the simplistic explanation of UFOs as extraterrestrial visitors, prompting us to consider how spiritual entities might influence and manipulate the physical realm. So Dr. Kurt Wagner unmasked the aliens and UAPs. So let's consider the viewpoint of Dr. Kurt Wagner, a physicist and expert in relativity theory, who has noted that supernatural forces reminiscent of those observed in seances and poltergeist activities appeared to possess the ability to manipulate both matter and energy. These forces can extract energy from the atmosphere, resulting in localized temperature changes that defy the second law of thermodynamics. So Dr. Wagner explains UFOs represent large structure to create a large or a force field appearance resembling matter. Although it essentially comprises concentrated energy rather than solid matter in the traditional sense, the central idea here is that a spiritual explanation aligns remarkably well with the observed phenomena associated with UFOs. So entities originating from the higher capability to manipulate energy, generate illusions of mass, speed, and tangible physical manifestations, rise to perceptions of alien entities, genuine physical spacecraft. So the potential for entities like Satan to manipulate human minds, particularly those who reject this creator, is not only a theme found in the Bible, but is also substantiated by documented by case histories. Consequently, this leads us to a firm conclusion that UFOs represent the work of deceptive spiritual entities. So Jacques Vallée, this guy is a secular investigator. He is an academic. He has no bones in the game as far as a theist, or he doesn't have any biases or anything like that. But he says Wiley recognizes the foremost senior scientific investigator of unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs, has pointed out that the effects attributed to UFOs may result from a combination of various phenomena. It is possible that one aspect is visual, while another generates physical traces. What Vallée suggests is the potential involvement of a peculiar form of deception in these occurrences. Could it be conceivable that spiritual entities are capable of producing such effects? We posit that considering the biblical accounts of angelic activities, it is likely that fallen angels possess the capability to manipulate energy fields, thus giving the rise to many of these observed phenomena. Additionally, certain effects could be achieved through the direct deceptive manipulation of the minds of contactees by the malevolent spirits. This implies a form of demonic deception that involves the creation of illusions. So these entities are employing deception, mind manipulation, and ultimately possession to exert control over individuals. So demons, having fallen from angelic status, seemingly retain significant powers such as the ability to manipulate and reconfigure matter, as well as the capacity to influence or even control human consciousness and experiences through traditional possession involving the direct implantation of psychic experience. And this is the source SCP Journal, August 1977, Volume 1, Number 2, UFOs is Science Fiction Coming True, page 19. And here's an actual view, or an actual picture of the journal itself. It's the second one from the right. UFO is Science, SCP Journal. 1970s. This has been around in the Spiritual Counterfeits Project. So now we're going to get into accounts of alien encounters are spiritual in nature. Witnesses may claim to have met a divine being or have had a religious experience while on board the spacecraft. Some have said they have heard the voice of God or have participated in some seemingly religious ritual. The aliens have sometimes disguised themselves as Jesus, the Pope, well-known celebrities, and even the dead spouses of abductees. On occasions, this was done in order to gain the cooperation of the abductee, even for the purpose of having sexual intercourse with them. This is Dr. Carla Turner, Aliens, Friends, or Foes, UFO Universe, Spring 1993. So the overlooked paranormal phenomena involving aliens. And this is by Billy Crone, his publication, UFOs, The Great Last Days Deception. He put, I'm going to give two excerpts from the book, quote, "The evidence was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Gradually, things became a little clearer. They started to understand that these events were completely, not some, but completely spiritual in nature, and resembled ancient stories, descriptions of what the Bible called demons. It seems amazing that ET believing UFOologists and even skeptics have noticed that modern alien abductions resembled ancient stories of demons, yet have ignored the world's most famous book, the Bible, which explains their origins. Compare the spiritual nature of UFO sightings with the character of alien abductions, and surely we have begun to realize that these entities are not real physical ETs from other planets. And here's another excerpt. Quote, they are from another dimension, just as Jacques Vallée, Keel Mack, and so many other UFO researchers from differing sides of the fence have concluded. So to find their source, one needs to wear spiritual glasses. Unfortunately, most of these modern day researchers have embraced a humanist-based view of the world, with the theory of evolution serving as the creator of both them and the aliens. Now we're going to get in. There is nothing new under the sun. Aliens are ancient demonic entities. Quote, this is from a huge a voice, or this guy is a huge personality in UFO research, but his name is John Keel, but he says, quote, demonology is not just another crackpotology. It is the ancient and scholarly study of monsters and demons who have seemingly coexisted with man throughout history. Thousands of books have been written on the subject, many of them authored by educated clergymen, scientists, scholars, and are readily available to, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. So authored by educated clergymen, scholars, and unaccounted numbers of well-documented demonic events are readily available to every researcher. The manifestations and occurrences described in this imposing literature are similar, if not entirely identical, to the UFO phenomenon itself. Victims of demon mania possession suffer the very same medical and emotional symptoms as the UFO contactees. The devil and his demons can, according to literature, manifest themselves in almost any form and can physically imitate anything from angels to horrifying monsters with glowing eyes. So strange objects and entities materialize and dematerialize in these stories, just as UFOs and their splendid occupants appear and disappear, walk through walls, and perform other supernatural feats. This is John Keel, Operation Trojan Horse, Little Burn, Georgia, Illuminate Press. So this is one of the most prolific Satanists of all time, Aleister Crowley. People should be familiar with him. I'm sure even skeptics and the people that are secular atheists would even know who Aleister Crowley is. But here's what he said. This is what he said the demons said to him, the Satanist. They call us angels, demons today, but tomorrow they will call us something else. This is Iwas Lam, the demon, channeled by Crowley in 1994. And here's a drawing of the demon. Well, it looks almost identical to the alien. Is that, a coincidence? I think not. I think these things will manifest and channel themselves as aliens, but they really are demonic spiritual entities. So the connection between the occult and UFO phenomena. Number one, both exhibit telepathic communication. Almost across the board, there's telepathic communication that abductees mention. Both involve hypnotic or altered state induction, regression, and suggestion. Number three, both are adept at concealing their presence, both by successfully convincing the host or recipient to deny their existence and swaying significant portion of the public to believe they are non-existent. They are also skilled at concealing themselves within the layered psyche and often within the physical quantum or interstitial body of the host. Number four, when discovered, both respond with retaliation, often proportional to emotional distress caused by the discovery. Number five, they interact with participants and hosts on a profound soul level, or percipients. Number six, they gain degree of physical and mental control over their subjects for an extended periods. Number seven, They employ persuasion, manipulation, or coercion to compel their subjects to carry out actions against their will, including instances of forced sexual intercourse, violent crimes, and suicide. So more on the connection between the occult and UFO phenomenon. So UFO investigator David Wimbish, known for his extensive research in the UFO phenomenon, has proposed that the occult not only can lead to a UFO encounter, but also that an interest in UFOs may draw individuals into the occult. He states many UFO investigators have followed a path that leads them directly into the world of the occult. They often believe they are rediscovering ancient spiritual truths and uncovering new insights about the universe. However, it's more likely that they are becoming entangled in ancient deceptions. In fact, the UFO phenomenon has influenced many to explore practices like astral projection, reincarnation, and other beliefs that stand in opposition to the traditional teachings of the Christian church. Jacques Vallée, who we talked about in in-depth tonight, a well-known secular French UFO researcher, says, the very suggestion of such a link is disturbing to a scientist. He is a scientist. However, the phenomena reported by UFO witnesses involve poltergeist effects, levitation, psychic control, healing, and out-of-body experiences. So Vallée has personally investigated countless UFO sightings. His comments are based on years of firsthand observation. He concludes in recent years that the report of paranormal events in connection with the close encounters with UFOs seems to have become the rule rather than the exception. So the UAP incident in Salador, Ethiopia. So one noteworthy case brought to the center's attention involved a letter from a medical doctor working for the United Nations in Ethiopia. The doctor described a peculiar natural phenomenon that occurred in the village of Salador, located approximately 14 kilometers from Asmara on August 7, 1970 at 11:30 a.m. Eyewitness accounts from local villagers described the event in the following manner. Around 11 a.m., they heard a noise emanating from the nearby forest resembling the sound of a low-flying airplane. The noise grew to an ear-piercing volume as a red glowing sphere appeared, sweeping through the village, causing destruction in its path. It uprooted trees, charred grass, yet inexplicably didn't ignite any fires. As it departed the village, it melted asphalt on the road over an area of approximately 2 by 7 meters and shattered the stone wall of a bridge into fragments. The sphere then moved about 150 meters further towards a hillside, then momentarily hovered above the ground before commencing a return journey. Closely retracting its initial path or moving in a parallel direction. During its return, it caused further damage to the houses before disappearing in a direction similar to its arrival. So the entire distance it traveled, including both legs of its journey, spanned roughly 3 kilometers each way. And the entire spectacle lasted approximately 10 minutes.
1 minute.
So some witnesses described it having a shape resembling a tree trunk. I'm going to get to the last part here, so I'm going to hurry through this. So the damage it caused is likened to a cannonball. But here you can see, here's an actual image of the damage by this object. And here's you can see the rips in the wall. These are actual pictures. And also David Clark, the name of Jesus Christ drives aliens away. I just want to see this last little quote here. As the number of cases mounted, the data showed that in every instance where the victim knew to invoke the name of Jesus Christ, the event stopped. Period. The evidence was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. In addition, the Christian church is not equipped to deal with such reports because the UFO phenomena has been largely misunderstood and dismissed by organized religions. Yet, as the number of cases mounted, the number showed that in every instance where the victim knew to invoke the name of Jesus, the event stopped. Period. And with that, I end my time. I appreciate the being here and looking forward to talking with James.
All right. Gentlemen, all I can say is wow. Those were some comprehensive and a lot of visuals. So I really appreciate those presentations. We've got a lot of points on the table, and I think we're going to have a great discussion as we engage both your presentations. So before we get into a discussion, though, let's give you both 8 minutes for a rebuttal, 8 minutes of uninterrupted time. James, we'll throw it back to you whenever you're ready. You've got 8
try
minutes.
to get through this as quickly as I can, Donny.
Sure.
But right, so what do we know? We do know that there's unidentified objects flying through our airspace. They've been flying up there almost as long as humans have been flying. It's been several government projects trying to analyze it over the years. And well, what were they saying after Project Blue Book, Project Sign, Project Grudge? We don't know what it is, but we're looking into it. And then they said that it's nothing, and we're not looking into it. Well, now we know that wasn't true. They were looking into it, but they told us they weren't. And the thing is with this, it's very hard to make a scientific case because scientists need data. They use science. They take data. They have tools that they use to make models that tell us about the natural world. And science can deal with frauds, forgeries. It'll find out about that eventually, but science only has to work with what it has to work with. So basically what's happening is government they're willing to release lots of videos and photographs that are very vague, that are, there's something there, but it's very difficult to see exactly what it is. And they say, yeah, we don't know. We're looking into it. It's the same thing they've been saying for 80 years. And here's some videos, here's some images, and yeah, there you go. And they say, well, what about those videos, images? Well, no, you can't see these images and documented videos. No, that would be a grave threat to national security if we let you see these. But trust us, it doesn't give you any more information about the topic than what we've already, because we don't know, right? We don't know. Here's a few videos. You can't see that stuff over there. It'd be too big of a risk to national security. But trust us, we don't know. It doesn't make much sense, but that's not really a scientific way of looking at it. Scientists, they just want to see the data. They don't care. So they're just going to say there's no data, there's no evidence, and they'll go with the default position of science, which is to doubt, which is, why science has such a hard time with these, because they don't have the data. So there's not really much for them to say on the topic. So moving into some of the things that Praise was talking about. So demons, well, we don't even really have a clear picture of, from the Bible, what demons are. It was really vague. When I was a Christian, I would have said that they're the fallen angels, but now lots of Christians are turning to sources like the Book of Enoch, because it explains a few things that they don't really have explanations for, which seems to indicate demons are actually disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, that for whatever reason there's a loophole, they can't go to hell yet, so they have to exist in this limbo stage until the judgment, whatever. I don't the whole idea of a Satan and demons is it's one of the most absurd aspects of Christianity. It really doesn't make any sense in reality. It's something you guys just accept because it's taught to you when you're children, but it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, we see these beings, they seem to rely on technology. When Jesus cast the demons out of the guy and into the pigs, they didn't have to get in a craft and fly over. They're interdimensional, right? If that even is a proper term. They can move. They don't need technology. They don't need to rely on technology. And why do these things seem so fixated with our military? Like, trust me, there is nothing in the military arsenal that is going to be used against a demon. They don't care. They should be utterly oblivious to our military. If it was demons, actually, what would you see them fixated on? You'd see them fixated on the Christian church, on trying to hamper the church from worshiping God and preaching the gospel. That would be their primary goal. They wouldn't be wasting time turning our nuclear missiles off and following our Navy pilots around. That is what a flesh and blood, real incarnate person or being would do, because they are not immortal. They're subject to laws of physics, and they would want to be aware of our military capabilities. And we've always seen this. We've always seen Christians try to take whatever current events are going on, whatever's happening in the world, and try to apply that to their Bible. But long before the UFO thing, Christians thought they were in the end times, and they were able to take the things that they were seeing and make them kind of fit with the Bible, and it's always the end times. And we just see a continuation of that today. It's actually why a lot of Christians have are going to more fringe. There once was more fringe things like preterism, because it gets you out of that loophole. You don't have to constantly look for things that match up with Revelation. And back when I was a Christian, when we were all pre-tribbers, the alien invasion, it kind of made sense, because, well, all the Christians are just going to disappear one day. So you got to have a way to explain that. So maybe you could have the aliens come down and say, look, we're just trying to help humanity. We've got these mean, nasty, backwooted Christians just full of hate, and they're stopping humanity from progressing. And, well, we just had to take them out so the rest of you guys can move forward. But don't worry, we'll take them somewhere else. We'll re-educate them. We'll teach them how this evil Christianity is. And then when they're over that, we can bring them back. So, but all you guys are post-tribbers now, because you guys realized how much easier that is to fit. The post-trib really gives you guys a lot more breathing room, a lot more options than pre-trib. So that's kind of where everybody's going. Where does an alien invade? It doesn't really fit into that, because the Christians are here till the very end. I would just say these invocations of demons and magic and other things like that, whereas I'm talking about actual things in the sky that we can see with our eyes. They show up on military radars. We can verify them. We can't verify a lot of these interdimensional claims. They're interesting, but I'm sticking more to things that we can actually see. Physical craft causing damage on the ground. That doesn't seem like a spiritual
1 minute.
But yeah, we as a culture, in fact, we had back in the 1690s in America, we had the Salem witch trials, where people were invoking the kinds of explanations now. Kids say, oh, we're being afflicted. These people are working with demons. 19 people executed in Salem for nothing. And when word of that got back and it was fully digestible by the British Parliament, they were appalled by it. So they passed the Witchcraft Act of 1735, which didn't criminalize witchcraft anymore. What did it? It criminalized claiming someone else or yourself, claiming anybody is a witch or has magical powers, is condemned or is consorting with demons. And what has happened from that? Have we seen any do we see paranormal magical events happening on a daily basis? No, we don't see women flying around on broomsticks. This stuff is not real. Thank you.
James, I appreciate the 8-minute rebuttal. I understand how quickly 8 minutes can go by when you're rebutting an opening statement. So
that's what she said.
So praise the I am. We got to keep this PG-13, boys. But seriously, good job so far. We've got a lot of points on the table for us to engage in rebuttal and also discussion. So praise, you now have your 8-minute rebuttal. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right. I appreciate that by James. Some of the arguments to me didn't really, they really didn't, I think meet the criteria of like a rebuttal, but I mean, I think maybe as we go on, we can sort of explore some of these issues. So the first thing I'm going to press James in is the physical limitations of aliens, these extraterrestrials. And one of the things that James he has to contend with is the what we call in like several scientists is the Fermi paradox. And I'm going to explain what the Fermi paradox is really quick. So the Fermi paradox is a discrepancy between the lack of conclusive evidence of advanced terrestrial life and the apparently high likelihood of its existence. As a 2015 article put it, if life is so easy, someone from somewhere or somewhere else must have come calling by now. So the word paradox means a statement that contains conflicting ideas. In this case, something like extraterrestrials likely exist and they travel through space, but we have not seen them. That is a paradox. That is a contradiction. And I will press James on that. I mean, in a respectful way. I don't mean to invoke any type of hostility, but I do think that is something he's going to have to address. But also, the physical limitations. The speed of light travels 671 million miles per hour. And think about this: that 1 G of force is 22 miles an hour. So moving at the speed of light causes 30,500,000 Gs. But the problem is we can only handle 16 Gs. I mean, us natural humanoids. So even if we grant that these aliens are far more advanced than us and live longer than us, we're not going to give them 30,500,000 Gs to move throughout the universe or even galaxies. And I'm just going to give an example here. So 656 Gs is considered fatal for an impact. So Alpha Centauri is the nearest star to our sun. It is 4 light years away. So a spacecraft traveling at half the speed of light would take 8 years to arrive there. So I think that demonstrates any galactic travel is impossible due to the immense physical restraints. So alien life could only be within our solar system. However, that makes it worse for James because that even exponentially makes the Fermi paradox even more probable because we haven't found a trace or any tangible evidence of extraterrestrials within our own solar system. So James is caught between a rock and a hard place, and these limitations seriously limit the idea of our natural biological aliens that look like a bunch of bugs with dark eyes. I mean, that makes no sense too. And why do they have the same features as humans anyway? If there's hyper evolution throughout the universe, shouldn't it be a lot different than us and stuff? And I'm just saying that's something I think he needs to contend with. And we can get into the Drake's equation. I'd like to get into that with him. Let's see. Oh, and I've heard him talk about, Satan, I can't believe in Satan, and demons. And I think that's an argument for incredulity. I mean, the world, if you think about this, James, I mean, I don't mean to insult you, but majority of the world is spiritual in some way. It doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true, but it makes you, at least you have to defend your viewpoint and not hand wave it away. And I think that would be pretty high-minded and arrogant to say that 85% of the world that believes in some type of religion or spiritual force is wrong. And it's just a bunch of naturalistic goo, and we're just matter in motion, and a bunch of, we're from apes and stuff. And I think that there's a burden of proof for that, but I know that's not part of the debate topic tonight, but we can discuss that. So basically, Fermi's paradox, Drake's equation, all these accounts are spiritual in nature, and these are from secular scientists, investigators, and researchers. So there's a mountain for James to crawl up here. I don't think he can get there, but with that, I end my time.
All right, praise. Thank you very much for that roughly 8-minute rebuttal. And that has concluded our opening statements and our rebuttals. The chat is lively. I have finally just caught up on questions. We've got a ton of questions, gentlemen. So get yourselves comfortable, put on a pot of coffee. We're going to be here until same time tomorrow. A full 24-hour debate marathon on aliens and UFOs. Okay, excellent job so far. We're now moving into a free-flowing discussion. And we've got a lot of points on the table. I would say very interesting points. And so let's do our best to not spend too much time on any one single point, because I do want to make sure that we have enough time to discuss all of the points that you both brought up. So let's do this.
You can prod us along if we're lagging too much long.
I will. So Praise just ended with his rebuttal. Therefore, James, why don't we have you pick the first topic, and we'll have a discussion. Go ahead.
Right. So the Fermi paradox, for what people Praise did a pretty good job explaining it. It's, well, they should be there. Why aren't they there? And it's funny, if you look at like maybe 10 years ago, what the scientists were saying was that, well, I mean, we wouldn't really expect to see evidence of it yet because we've only been looking for a limited amount of time, and what little amount of the data we have access to, it would be silly to say that they're not there. But actually lately now they're saying, no, if they were there, we would see it. So they're probably not there. But I think what you have going on here is, I mean, people familiar with the history of this planet are well aware that when less advanced civilization meets a more technologically advanced civilization, it usually doesn't go good for the less advanced civilization. So I think we are being, if they are real and if they are there, because I'm not saying I have 100% knowledge on it. I think that's what is going to happen, but I don't claim absolute knowledge. But I think what you could be seeing is a very gradual introduction of their presence, so that we can very gradually assimilate that into our knowledge base, rather than just showing up and saying, by the way, all your religions are false and all your notions about the universe don't work, which would be very shocking and disruptive to our culture. I think they are going about it a much more measured, a much more way that is going to be less devastating to our society and our culture.
Yeah, and you know what, James? Like, there's a few points that I would like to just see how you respond to it. So, like Fred Hoyle, he calculated the odds of life emerging through unguided evolution, and he put it 1 chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. Would you agree or disagree with Fred Hoyle's calculation there? And are you like, with these type of equations or these probabilities, do they even like challenge you, or do you even take those into consideration? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, we have thoroughly examined one planet, and we know that has life on it. We haven't seen evidence of life on other, but we haven't thoroughly examined it. So we have such a small sample size. We can say that from the limited amount of exploration we've done to our solar system, we haven't seen clear evidence of life yet. But I mean, to extrapolate that out and to any type of equations, there's just so much there that we don't know. To me, it's just guesswork trying to like figure out the likelihoods. I mean, we know that we're here, and I know you don't believe it. I know people here don't believe it, but from my perspective, that happened through naturalistic means. If it could happen here, we have to assume it could happen elsewhere. And by the way, it happened here quick. Didn't take billions and billions of years for life to arise. It arose basically as soon as the conditions were right for it to arise. It's not too hard to imagine that could have happened maybe 100,000 or 1 million years prior in another solar system.
Okay. So I'm saying like these odds are just, like, to me, they're not even, to me, mathematically considerable. Like, I think mathematicians put things like in the category to the 20th power as something that's mathematically inoperable, or something that, so to me, it's just even an extraordinary. So, I think that even you would concede that this is sort of an extraordinary event, almost maybe even a supernatural event, because, or something that's along the lines of something that's supernatural, because it just goes beyond what we would put in even something that's probable. But a sort of a side point. But so, like, are you familiar with so some of these secular scientists, they did try to find solutions to the Fermi paradox. But here's what they said, though. This is from Nicholas Alexander Dobler. He says that the solutions to the Fermi paradox either deny the existence of extraterrestrials or offer alternative reasons to explain the non-occurrence of a first contact. So even if you wanted to try to try to explain away the Fermi paradox or try to give some type of explanation for it, it still denies extraterrestrials. What would you say to that?
Well, like I said, a lot of secular scientists have gone down this rare earth path that if they were there, we would see them, and they're not. We don't see them overtly, so they must not be there. I obviously don't take that position. I understand why a lot of them do, but yeah, I think there are just so many variables to that for us, with our very limited knowledge set, for us to try to mathematize it is kind of silly. I get that we have to work with the data that we have, but you can make you're pretty well aware. You can make statistics say almost anything. People they try to come out and say, like, oh, what are the odds of one protein forming? It's 1 with 80 trillion zeros after it.
Right.
Obviously, protein formed because there's protein, and we don't have any evidence of a supernatural God. So maybe their calculations are just a little bit off. Maybe they're trying to make it look a lot more improbable than it really is.
Okay. It's another part you mentioned, like, to maybe we could talk about this too, is the 14 million year universe. Even young Earth, I'm just saying for right now, for me as a young Earth creationist, I might even concede that has nothing to do with the. Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm going to make this point, though, that maybe the expansion of the universe was instantaneous, or at least I think that's a pretty conclusive understanding, that the expansion was probably faster than the speed of light. As far as I know, I might be wrong on that. So if we know the expansion is going...
Science. I think that's mainstream science, the inflation.
Well, I mean, I would agree that starlight, maybe from the end of the universe or near the end of it, whatever it is, it might take billions of years to get here, but that has nothing to do with the inception of the universe. So we don't know. Maybe it's both young and old. And have you considered that idea, or that a possibility?
Yeah, there was a guy, he's dead now, but a guy named Chuck Missler, who used to make an argument like that. Like it's 14 billion in our clock, but 6,000 in God's clock. I mean,
right.
I think at that point you're just you're just conjecturing. I don't think it really has any basis in reality. Everything that we can see seems to indicate 14 billion years old. Now, if there's a God who wanted to make it look like it was older, and for whatever reason he designed the parameters to make us think it was older, I mean, okay, we can't, but that's not really falsifiable, you know?
Well, I might push back a little bit. I would say in quantum mechanics, that could easily, because the collapse of a wave function is instantaneous, like the observer effect and things like that, these things are instantaneous, and you can have superposition from one end of the universe to the other end. And maybe that's something what's going on here, what's going on with these objects, is why they're moving around so much. But it could be quantum mechanics, but I would take quantum mechanics in an idealistic sense, that it derives from mind, or fundamentally mind. Everything derives from mind. So I think it suits well with my perspective, but I guess, I think this is maybe sort of a conundrum for you, is you think aliens are outside of our galaxy, and how do they travel around?
No, like, I'm sure that there are civilizations outside of our galaxy, but in terms of what we would be able to interact with, they would all be from our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. Communication or contact with another galaxy, the distances are just so mind-bogglingly crazy. No, if we're dealing with a presence, it's almost certainly from our galaxy, which is 100,000 light years in diameter. So that's pretty big. But we're talking about civilizations that could be 1 million years, 2 million years ahead of us. And like you said, these things with physics and these things that we really don't understand. Well, I mean, quantum mechanics has only been around for like 100 years. We're
Right.
still in the infancy of using science to learn about the natural world. So, I mean, what physics will we know in 10,000 years, 20,000 years? I mean, it'll probably make what we understand today look trivial. And for us to try and put limitations on a species that's a million years more advanced, like the speed of light, that wouldn't be an issue. G-forces, they would have figured out ways that we might not be able to understand around all that. There's wormholes. There's, I forget even the name for the type of drive. David Brush mentions it, but it's basically almost like a warp drive where you're not actually moving through space. You're warping space around you to move. So there's different options for how these beings could be traveling. But the bottom line is we see them. We see these craft that defy our capabilities. They're here. They had to get here somehow.
Right. Yeah. And I might push back on the wormhole thing because wormholes, they don't take you to where you want to go unless you can control the wormhole. So they would have some type of power over nature itself, which would make them supernatural or paranormal.
You would need an insane amount of power, like probably
right.
the entire power of a star or greater.
And it's even stated by several mathematicians that to even go light speed, you need infinite energy to even accomplish that. And there's just no way we could accomplish that.
No, you could never travel by light speed. I mean, you could get close, but I think it's fair to say whatever technology is being using is not traveling at that speed. There's some type of physics workaround that they've discovered that allows them to travel much faster. I mean, what that is, right. I don't know, but I'm just saying they're here. We see them, and we've been looking into this for 80 years, and we don't have an explanation for it. And here's the thing: it's not like some people will say, "Oh, this is just really advanced government tech that we don't know about." But I mean, these things had these capabilities back in the 1940s. Before we even had jet aircraft, and they were doing similar things to what they're doing today. So this is not a slow evolution, and suddenly we have anti-gravity orbs that can fly around. This stuff has been happening for as long as we know, 80 years, probably longer.
I would even argue it goes back into the ancient days. Even primitives were mentioning these type of crafts and images of aliens. So this has been around for a long time, but I think that would support the demonic view, the spiritual view. And like, it seems like you've already conceded that they have to have a work around the physical limitations for them to travel around, even within the galaxy. So, I think that kind of says a lot, but I would say that if they're spiritual and if they're interdimensional, they could easily, move from one end to the other. I mean, because it's mental. And I've looked into a lot of these accounts, and it seems to be the case that they do travel through some type of mind-operated system, that their thoughts actually move them from one destination to the next. And I think that really supports the spiritual viewpoint. But so why
are they flying around in craft or masquerading or making it look like it's craft? Why are they using technology?
Well, maybe that's because that's how they manifest. Like, unless you have these crafts that you can't manifest in this dimension, because the Bible makes it clear, like a lot of these demons, they are invisible in their natural form, whatever it is, their spiritual form. So then they would have to, possess someone to do something, or go into like another type of slimy green or whatever those skins are of the, they're cold. I heard a lot of accounts. They were saying these are cold skin things, and they're not like human skin, So I think that they could possess those type of things if they can inhabit those things through possession.
Talking about like poltergeist activity, which is where things move on their own, or that's the claims. But now you're saying that they can possess people, and then, or they can manifest in, it sounds like a quasi-physical way, but the claims are is that these objects just move on their own with no intervening force.
Well, they can manipulate. This is like my opening. I showed that they're able to dematerialize, and like we have several cases. We can even in 2019, we had with the U.S. Hold on, give me a second to get the name of the. So like we have several different accounts that, yeah. So we have in the U.S. Omaha and San Diego shows actual footage of a sphere. And this is like some type of radar too, that only infrared radar. Like they weren't even seen in they were invisible to the naked eye, but through radar they seen these spherish objects, and it dematerialized. It went into the water. We have actual footage of this, and it went underwater, and it completely dematerialized. But then it rematerialized, and so what would you? To me, when that say something that is paranormal, or what would be the dividing line of something that's paranormal and not paranormal?
So, I mean, look, it's possible that there's different flavors of this phenomenon, that it could have an interdimensional component, like Jacques Vallée says. I can't foreclose that. But I would at least contend that there is at least part of it that appears to be flesh and blood aliens. Could there be beings who have evolved to exist as pure energy, and they don't really? I don't know. I can't prove it, disprove it. It's conjecture, but what I could say is, like, why would if these things are demonic, why are they like going to people's houses in rural Montana and flipping the light switches off and on and making books move around, just messing with people? Why aren't they like cutting the pastor's brake lines or trying to shut the churches down? Why aren't they directly assaulting Christianity to hamper the preaching of the gospel? Instead, it just seems like they're just messing with people. They're doing little like parlor tricks to amuse themselves, but doesn't seem to be what they would be doing if they were these diabolical spirits out for the death and destruction of humanity.
Well, I would disagree with that, because in my presentation, I mentioned David Clark, and he says, as a number of cases mounted, the data shows that at every instance where the victim knew to invoke the name of Jesus Christ, they stopped. So they are trying to attack Christians. And in fact, I think that's their objective, is to possess or somehow move them away from Christianity into another God or another religion or spirituality. And I think it's deceptive. They have a deceptive agenda. And I mentioned several sources that even said, anyway, Jacques Vallée said that. Like, there's other researchers out there that are trying to move Christians away from their faith. And it seems to be like the Christians that what Jesus would call is the lukewarm Christians. They don't go after the strong, evangelicals that love Jesus and they have faith in him, and they live their faith out every day. They don't get messed with. It's these lukewarm Christians that are there's a lot of them, and they get abducted, and it's this mental telepathy. They bring messages into their mind. They try to get them to basically get to go to their side, persuade them to go to their side. We're nice, we're loving, and all these other things. So I do see a lot of deception there. So what's with all the deception? And to me, isn't that what demons do?
I mean, humans deceive lots of people. Everything can be deceptive. I mean, sure, demons, if they exist, they could be deceptive, but I mean, if these guys have a funny way of going about it, if they're trying to bring people over to their side, abducting people, performing bizarre, terrifying medical experiments on people, subjecting them to examinations, and just violating their bodily integrity in inhuman ways. I mean, if they're trying to bring people over their side, they got a really funny way of going about it, right? And for these people having these manifestations, who I said the name of Jesus. Well, I mean, people from other religions go through things like demonic possession and poltergeist activity too. And if you were in Saudi Arabia or Iran and you had something going on like that, you'd have an imam come out, and the imams are able to help these people because a lot of this is just mental disorders and mental illness, and these people really believe this is happening to them. And if you're having, like, let's say a lucid dream, right, and you're being attacked by beings in that dream, it seems real to you, okay, and you say the name, you know about Jesus, so you say the name of Jesus, and then you expect them to disappear, and well, it's your dream, so they all disappear, and then you say, well, that was a real book. But that's why my evidence is more sticking to what's actual physical, what we know, rather than talking about these personal experiences of people that we can't verify. You know, they're very subjective, and it's just really hard to determine what's going on.
Well, I would push back, and as a source I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation by John Mack, and I mean, we had, like, it was a sea of mental health professionals, and they went through every case. They looked through it extensively, and they came to the conclusion that there was no mental illness. So I think that is a inaccurate position to say that a lot of these people that have had the abductions or somehow denoting mental illness, and that's just not even close to being true. And, like, I would urge you to check out the Alien Discussions proceedings of the Abduction Study Conference at MIT Cambridge. I mean, it's like a 5-inch thick book, and also John Mack, like he had 10 years of this experience. He has a book out that he put out on the mental competency of these abductees. So I just don't think that's a fair evaluation.
It wouldn't be necessarily that they're mentally ill. They're just having dreams that seem very realistic. Like, have you ever, it's happened to me a couple times, I'm not embarrassed to say, but where you have a dream that actually gets, like, assimilated into your memory, and you almost remember it like a real event, like you're looking for something in a certain spot, then you realize, I said, wait a minute, that was just a dream. And I mean, maybe that's never happened to you. It has happened to me a couple times before, where you have these very vivid, lifelike dreams that seem real at the time, but they're just dreams, and that doesn't make you mentally ill. It just makes you human. We all dream when we sleep. We go in to a different realm. We have experiences that are sometimes otherworldly in these dreams, and it doesn't make a person mentally ill. They're just being human.
Well, I mean, I think that's a possibility, but except there's evidence that of where they were probed, and there's, like, we have physical evidence of them, having holes inside their rectums and stuff, and, like, that doesn't make any sense. If there's going to be lesions of these things, and after, like, physical evidence of this, medical evidence, then I think it's more than a dream. I think these things operate on the mental level, and I think that's the issue here, that you're looking at from a physicalist understanding, but if you look from a spiritualist understanding, these make a whole lot more sense. And, like, I'm telling you, like, I mean, it's pretty much the predominant position now that the UFO the researchers and the academics are. Let me just give you a quote here. So many of the UFO reports now being published in the popular press recount alleged incidents strikingly similar to demonic possession and psychic phenomenon that have been long known to theologians and parapsychologists. So this is Lynn E. Cateau, Library of Congress, senior bibliographer. So that seems to be, like, that's the main theme, is that these have some type of poltergeist, demonic reputation. And, like, if they're just physical beings, biological beings, like, why would they even mess with humans in the first place? It makes no sense. And tinker with us. So if you want to go into that, go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
I mean, it's so hard to say because these accounts, they run the gamut. Some of them are very almost not too crazy, but some of them just, they're out there and we don't have verification for them. And well, if people were being abducted, well, a lot of these procedures, as scary as they do seem to be what you call medical examinations, procedures. But why would demons would know the human, demons know the human anatomy, the human body. What are demons doing conducting physical examinations of people? We don't have any recounts of that in the Bible, of demons taking people and doing medical experiments or medical procedures on people. It seems like they would be more concerned with the physical, or the spiritual rather, of these people, and putting these people through these very terrifying procedures. I don't know. It just seems to be more like what flesh and blood alien scientists or people would be doing, trying to do research on us. But they're not always treating us with human dignity because, well, to them, we're probably a lower. They look at us more like we look at animals, unfortunately, some of them. And that's unfortunate, but it appears to be the reality if there is anything to these abduction phenomenon cases.
Well, a number of reports, they mentioned that these aliens, they telepath. There's an incident in, I think, Zimbabwe, where there's a bunch of kids, like we're talking between 6 and 10, etc., and they flew down there and they telepathically communicate with the children. And they were saying that, try to live a good life because the world's going to come to an end through bombs. So, and I mean, that is a typical type of UFO event or phenomenon that people account of. And so what I'm leading to is, I think everything is leading to the Antichrist. And I know you don't believe in that, but the Bible talks about a huge deception event where Satan is going to set up shop here on earth, and he's going to have a huge deception and have people worshiping the mark of the beast and etc. I think all of it's leading to that. So it makes sense why they're talking like, oh, we're going to be the saviors that are coming down. We're friendly to you if you support us and consent to us. Then, they'll even have sex with you. A lot of people enjoy it. I heard some people enjoy it. So as long as you consent with them, then they're good. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I think it's leading to that deception of the Antichrist, where I think they're going to come down through these vehicles, which you call, UFOs, UAPs, and they're going to be the saviors. They're going to claim to be the saviors. They might even have paranormal abilities. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, these are those things that we've been looking at. And, let's worship them. And I think a lot of people are going to do that. And, yeah.
I mean, I do think there are people who have been, like Lou Elizondo. He's one of the guys who used to work for the Department of Defense, and he used to say that there is a lot of people in the Pentagon who want nothing to do with this topic. They don't want to look at it because they think it's Satan. And if I were the UFO, the beings behind them, that may be one of the reasons why they're so cautious, because they know that we still have these religious beliefs, and that a large chunk of the population will regard them as demonic whenever they do make their final appearance. But I don't think, like, if they came down tomorrow, I wouldn't worship them. If they said worship us, I would not worship them. As the great Aaron Ra has said before, any being who demands to be worshipped is unworthy of it. And I'm not worshiping anything. So if they came down and said, worship me, I wouldn't worship them. Amy Newman wouldn't worship them. Nobody would worship them. I don't know. Worship is a religious concept, and we just don't partake in that.
Well, that's good to hear, because I don't want you taking the mark of the beast. And I know it's coming. I mean, it's my belief, but I'm pretty convicted of that. And this itself has really solidified it for me. what their dealings and what they're doing with people and messing with them, and trying to convince them that these are the gods of a lot of these accounts, as I mentioned in my opening, they're religious in nature. These aren't just like biological, natural accounts. These are really religious in nature. So I'm just saying, it seems to me like it's more consistent with this understanding. I know another thing I want to commend you for is that you're open-minded, and I think that takes a lot of intellectual honesty to admit, hey, there's something going on, beyond the natural of this 100% physicalist viewpoint of the world or whatever, where there's just nothing outside of us. There's no possibility of that. And I commend you, at least you're going that far. I just think you need to take that last step. And then I think once you see and put it together, it meshes perfectly with the Christian worldview.
Well, all I can say is, okay, if the aliens come down and say worship us, I will be a little concerned. That would set off warning bells in my mind that, whoa, this seems to be unusual, because any type of advanced civilization would be far beyond concepts like that, like worship and but like, the truth of the matter is, though, is we do really have problems on this earth, and if there are solutions to it, if some other race does have those, it would be really a shame if we were just so scared of these what I consider these superstitions from long ago in our past that don't allow us to use their help or their technology to benefit us. Like, that would be a shame, and I think that it may be part of, if they are there and they really do have this technology, they would probably be a little leery of coming down overtly because of the chaos that could cause if religious beliefs were challenged. And but I don't think aliens coming down would not be the end of Christianity. It would not be like they come down and tomorrow nobody's a Christian anymore. All the churches close and that's it. Not that it's not problematic. It is problematic in a few ways, but Christianity has evolved over the centuries. It's assimilated and changed, and it could continue. Even like I know you don't really consider them Christian, but the Vatican Catholic Church, they've already said that it could be. It's not a conflict with what they believe in. You probably think that's setting up the Antichrist deception, but
right.
Yeah, we really do have problems, and it would be a shame if we couldn't take advantage of those because of our superstitions.
Yeah, and I agree with you in a large portion of what you said there. However, like, if you look at it in the ultimate perspective, there has to be an ultimate source of all things. And like, if you just do a breakdown, like even a philosophical breakdown of polytheism and some of these other religions, they crumble apart ontologically. I mean, even a contingency, like, even if, like, you're right. So let's just say aliens came down. I think it would just affirm, because I think they, their plan would be to, overtake the world and try to run the world and have people worship them. But to me, that the contingency that, okay, aliens exist, so then what created the aliens? And I think that's a natural, understanding of how humans try to reason, is there's something that's ultimate, that is non-contingent and non-dependent. So these things would, since they are contingent, according to you too, that these things are contingent upon the universe, then they have to be contingent upon something greater than themselves. So I think that's actually a problem more the naturalistic viewpoint than anything.
So, I mean, there are Christians who are fine with, like, theistic evolution, that don't necessarily have to see God being involved at every step of that way. So if that could happen here, God could be behind it on another planet, and it could have happened the same way. And maybe they need Jesus too, and we just need to preach the gospel to them. And maybe they could come down and they could go to church with us. We'll all go to church together with the aliens, and yeah, it's a possibility, but I don't think it wouldn't be the end of religion. I think it would maybe put us a little bit closer on that path to a completely secular society, but it wouldn't be a grave blow in that step, which is one of the reasons I think why the decision was made to keep this secret to begin with was, well, you had in the 1940s, we had just gotten out of World War II, and we were ramping up into a Cold War with the Soviet Union. And as in communism and socialism, they have people in those countries have solidarity with their workers. They're all act as like one cohesive unit, but we don't have that in a capitalist society. We compete against each other. We work against each other. There's no solidarity between other groups. So it seems like they settled on Christianity as this way for this social cohesion. They put in God we trust on the money. They put under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think the decision was made that anything at that point that would undermine Christianity was a threat to national security in a way. And that kind of got the ball rolling in terms of why they initially were so leery about letting the public know these beings are real.
Yeah, I mean, to a large extent, I agree with you. But Christianity, to me, is the only worldview where it explains that there is a true monotheistic God, and I think that is, a necessary component in evaluating existence itself and reality. So when I look at the alien abductions and the nature of them, I mean, this is really the predominant viewpoint is that they resemble these demonic and poltergeist, like demonic activity. It's like it's identical to it. So I mean, I just don't see how we can equate anything natural. I think I think the Occam's razor shaves that off, and it makes it redundant, really. I mean, to even explain, and also the Fermi's paradox, which you seem to even you really didn't even, I think you probably conceded that maybe you concede that that's just an issue that could be the case, or
I think we have such limited data that it's really hard to extrapolate out likelihood of different civilization, because there's different, you work with the Drake equation. There's different data that there's several variables, and depending on those variables, a lot of them we don't know, but depending on what numbers you plug in, there could be life in every solar system, or life would be so unbelievably improbable that it's almost impossible we're even here. And a lot of the data we just don't have. We've only been at this a very limited amount of time.
Do you know what space.com said about the Drake equation?
I haven't read that, no.
They literally published an article. The title is "Stop Using the Drake Equation, You Alien Hunters." And it goes into some of the part of the article. And here's what they said, quote, "The Drake equation is simply a way of chopping up our ignorance, stuffing it into a mathematical meat grinder, and making a sausage guess. It doesn't have any predictive power greater than randomly pulling a number out of a hat."
Yeah, there's so much we don't know that, the variables are so wide open that it really depends on what numbers you choose to plug in, and you can get whatever result you want. But I don't think there's maybe life. I certainly wouldn't think it would be in every solar system. Maybe not every 10 or 100 solar systems, but there's thousands of them in the galaxy, and to think it hasn't happened on any other one, or that, then some people will say, well, yeah, it happens, but the lifespan of a civilization is so that you'd never have two at the same time. You'd have one civilization rise and fall on this planet, and then maybe a million years later on another one, but you'd never interact with them because of the limited lifespan of civilization. Because I don't know if you guys realize, but at some point we're going to have to migrate off the planet Earth, unless Jesus comes back and rescues us all. But otherwise, if humanity's going to survive, we're going to have to find a new home at some point. And that undertaking, that project is going to be by far the biggest undertaking you can imagine. Preparation will have to begin work millions of years in advance. People working millions of years for something that their trillion great grand generations later will benefit from. And do we have the stuff to get that done? I tend to be an optimist on that. I think that we do, that we will endure, but who knows? It could be 20 years from now and a meteor could wipe us all out.
It's still far-fetched. Even like, so they did the maximum possibility for Drake's equation. They only get 10,000 planets possible for life. And I mean, that is so minuscule. Like, that's, to me, that's so far-fetched that even if you wanted to plug it in there, it still makes it ridiculously impossible. I mean, wouldn't you think at least 1 million or at least 10 million, but not 10,000? I think that's ridiculous. And that seems to be the number there. And like, I mean, it's from the God perspective, the biblical perspective, everything just flows perfectly. We know that there's deceivers out there. Satan comes as an angel of light. We see that these entities, they come as angels of light, but then they try to manipulate their abductees and try to, do things to them and get them to worship them and take their eyes off Jesus. And in fact, like, they overstep their bounds so many times that, that it causes people to call the name of Jesus. And that is a common theme. And, I'm just going to mention a name here, David Clark. Like, he's put all these accounts and they leave, they're gone. Now, why are these things like so, like pushed away, or why are they so like being pushed away from Jesus Christ? I mean, why would that name scare them away and make them flee away? Why are they fleeing at the name of Jesus? I think there's more going on here. I think you need to consider.
Because it's what the person expects, and it's not a real event, and they expect them to flee when they hear the name of Jesus. So that's what happens. It's not an actual real event. It's something that's going on in their mind, would be my theory on that. But I mean, like, what are these demons even doing? Like, taking people to look at their anatomy. Demons already know our anatomy. They know what the human body is. They were there when God made it. So why would they need to conduct these experiments on people?
Yeah, and like, I do want to mention the nature of these these accounts is they have sleep paralysis. That seems to be the case. And like, why is it that, why are they becoming paralyzed? Even with the recent one here in Las Vegas that just happened, like, I think 5 months ago, that there was a comet whizzing by Las Vegas, and all of a sudden, there's these local people in Vegas saying there's 12-foot beings outside of their house, and they said they were paralyzed. They couldn't move. And it like spoke telepathically to him or something, and he had demonic eyes. Like, I think it was Rodriguez. I forget the guy's name, but he says they had demonic eyes. They were dark eyes, and it was satanic. Anything,
but they chose to manifest it in a demonic form. I mean, I guess maybe.
Well, yeah. So they're trying. So at least you see that they're trying to manifest as something nefarious. Even. I mean, you can even look this up too in accounts of Hitler, where Hitler was trying to invoke these. They had UFO abductees there too, and they connected the occult with Hitler and UFOs. So there's a common theme with UFOs and the occult.
Yeah, didn't seem to help.
Well, I mean, they were a
whatever
power.
Kind of information and technology they were getting, it didn't seem to help them out in the end.
Well, the Germans, they were pretty technologically advanced. I think even sometimes more advanced than the U.S. in some of these occurrences.
Some areas, yeah, they were.
And Yeah, like if you look up the occult there with Hitler and UFO abductees, like there's a connection there, and that seems to be, I mean, all these things seem to like align together that these are demonic entities and they take form. They can shapeshift. That's one of their abilities is to shapeshift. So I usually look at some of these, man.
More friendly, right? Like they'd be more like cuddly and nice instead of manifesting as.
Well, they are. No, they are. If you consent
they were
to them,
manifesting in demonic form. Like,
well, I think the ones that reject them, they retaliate, and like I put that part of in my opening presentation too, is they retaliate if you don't bend the knee to them or consent to them. So they have an agenda, and as long as you bend your knee to them or consent to them, then they're going to be nice to you. They'll give you a bunch of hidden incentives and stuff. And so they will work with you. And just like demons will, I mean, this is all throughout the occult, the demons help people, give them rich. They get rich. They get a bunch of, things from the world that are given to them. So Satan knows how to manipulate it.
We don't really have any evidence. It's just uncorroborated claims that people have claimed the demons got them rich. I mean, how many people have like asked demons to be rich, but they're not rich? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just hard to just hand wave it all away, all these accounts, like, and that is the majority of them. Like, I would give you more credence if at least some of them were like, hey, go here's some seed and go plant it and over in New Zealand or something, put some seed there, and here's some like great big trees that'll make the earth healthy. Like if these aliens had that type of or the accounts, what they were doing was more earthly generated to make the earth grow better and have better light or a better life for the inhabitants of the world, then yeah, okay, I would say, hey, maybe your perspective might be more clear, I mean, might be more accurate, but we don't see that. These things are religious. They have religious encounters, and they're trying to, pull the wool over these people's eyes and possess them and control them, and they flee away at the name of Jesus. So I think, these are religious in nature for a reason, because they are demonic. And I haven't really seen too much of a pushback to overturn that tonight, but I'm glad. I mean, I think your perspectives are legitimate, though. I like them.
I mean, it seems just more like that they are just gradually acclimating us to their presence to cause as minimum disruption as possible. For us to realize that they're there. Like I'm sure they in their history, they probably encountered some of the things that we had, where when less advanced cultures are visited upon by more advanced, it typically doesn't go good for the less advanced cultures. And even like Congressman Tim Burchett, who is an evangelical Christian, even he comes out and says, like, look, if these things wanted to with their technology, if they wanted to kill us or wipe us out, they could have done that easily. So, I mean, appears not to be their goal. So at that point, I mean, if they wanted to destroy us, if they wanted to just obliterate humanity, they could do that easily, and we would never see it coming. We would just be gone. These things like turning off our nuclear missiles, you'd think if it was demonic, right, they'd want to put them into launch sequence. Like they would want to launch nuclear missiles, but no, they're turning them off. It's like a way of saying, don't even bother with this stuff. We can control them, or you won't be able to hit us with those. But if they're demonic, they wouldn't be afraid of anything our military has anyway.
Yeah, I would say that has an eschatological reason for that. And like, if you look up the incident or the account in Solidary, Ethiopia, it was malevolent activity. There was nefarious activity. I mean, there was several people that were harmed in this, and physically harmed. And like, see, like these aliens, right, like if they had some type of naturalistic agenda, we wouldn't see that happening. In fact, I mean, it really does have a paranormal activity around it. This is reported by Alan Hynek, and he says it's all paranormal there. And I just think that the nature of these accounts, there's nothing naturalistic about it. And I just, I'll probably, I think we're probably talking past each other beyond that, though. But I mean, I really enjoyed the discussion tonight, James, and hope you turn to Jesus someday.
Gentlemen, this turned into a 2-on-1. James, you've got your behind-the-scenes producer helping you address Praise's argument. Praise, I'm getting a kick out of your filter.
Praise has Jesus on his side, okay? I mean, come on. I just have Gizmo, so, I mean, I need a handicap in any way I can get.
The real question is, what is your favorite alien science fiction movie, gentlemen?
Ooh, such a good question. Probably Men in Black for me. I love Men in Black.
That's based
good
on a
comedy.
True story, I think.
It might be. I don't know. I'm like,
E.T.?
I'm a Star Trek guy. I like Star Trek.
How about Signs?
Star Wars is good too.
Ooh, Signs, SFT. I like that one too. Yeah, that's a good one. Mel.
It was all right.
Yeah.
It was all right.
How about War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
If you want to see a good one, you could look up. It was a series called Childhood's End, which it came out like 2008, but it's got almost Satan in it, so you guys would get a kick out of that one. What the aliens look like. They basically look like Satan.
My favorite alien movie is Superman.
Oh.
Some say you're Kryptonian. Is that true?
That's true. My beard is Kryptonian.
Yeah.
This filter, it's my lumberjack filter because I wanted to put out for aliens tonight, because if you think of mountain men, they're probably the ones that see the most aliens. I was thinking, hey, I'm going to go lumberjack tonight, mountain style.
Come to figure, our military seems to be seeing these quite a lot. Seems like they have a fixation with our military
Praise,
capabilities.
You're being called out. Andrew says, Men in Black, really? Out of all the alien movies to choose from, Men in Black? Just kidding. That is a good movie. It's a good classic.
I like the first
movie.
Independence Day. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
That was good. Independence Day 2. Yeah.
White House scene.
Yeah.
Independence Day 2 was all right. 1 was pretty good.
Yeah. Part 2 was forgettable. Nothing like the original. That's for sure. What about Fire in the Sky? Isn't that one actually based on a true story, James W? Travis,
Travis Walton. He took a couple polygraphs. I think one was unconclusive. I don't know if I mean, individual stories, it's hard to gauge. I mean, he could be telling the truth. He could not be.
What's your position on it, Praise? If he really was abducted, as you said, James W, he was able to beat a couple polygraph tests. Seems like he really believed he was abducted.
Yeah.
So how would you explain that from your position, Praise?
Yeah, I listened to Travis Walton himself in his own account, for a while and extensive. And I think he was being absolutely upfront, and I think that he was not being deceptive. I didn't sense any deceptiveness from him. And the nature of his account was actually maybe the only one that wasn't paranormal. Like these things were small critters, and he could push them around and stuff, and he pushed one over, and I don't know, that's a curious one to me, but I think it was legitimate. I do. Authentic, I do.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, James W and Praise AM, we're in bonus minutes. I don't know if it felt like an hour to you guys, but it didn't feel like an hour to me. And I don't think it felt like an hour to the audience. And so you guys look like you're ready for another 2 hours. So let's do this. But Praise, you do have an after show. So don't worry, we won't go for another 2 hours.
We have one too.
Okay. So double the after show over on Amy Newman's channel and also Praise IM's channel.
Amy might be in bed. She works early. But.
Okay. Well, with that being said, why don't we take a few minutes each, gentlemen, to wrap up our thoughts and points in the form of a concluding statement. James, since you started us off with your opening, why don't we give you the first, let's say 3 to 5 minutes just to kind of wrap things up. Go ahead.
Right. So thanks, Praise. It was a good discussion, good back and forth. Like I said, I try to focus primarily on the physical events that we can corroborate, actual objects in the sky, being seen by people, showing up on radar systems. There really is something there. And these things seem to be fixated on our military. They seem to be very interested in what our military capabilities are. These kind of personal accounts, these abduction accounts, I mean, they're a dime a dozen. They're mostly not corroborated or corroboratable. So to put a whole lot of stock in them, I think is, I can't really go there. Some of them might be true. I don't know. But it's very difficult to sort through which ones are, which ones aren't. So I try to fix on what's real, what we do know, and what the witnesses have came forward and talked about. And that appears to be of a physical presence, actual craft, actual crashes. Like who is Hugh Ross says, these crashes, they're non-physical events, but they're leaving craters in the ground. No, that's a physical craft crashing. Now, these people, when they got there, there's no craft there. But has he heard about a broad crash retrieval and reverse engineering program that has been going out and recovering these craft? At least that's what the testimony of numerous witnesses says. We have Barack Obama. He takes this seriously. President of the United States should know about everything. He takes this seriously. Christopher Mellon, former Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, he takes this seriously. Harry Reid, Majority Leader of the United States Senate, part of the Gang of Eight, supposed to have access to just about everything. He takes this seriously. Marco Rubio, Senate Intelligence Committee, Gang of Eight, he takes this seriously. And these people are in position to know there's lots of data, lots of information. We don't have access. They won't let us see it. They will not let us see it. But these people who have seen it, they take this seriously. And it really does seem like there is something there. 30 to 50 witnesses in the Department of Defense and intelligence agencies testifying about this program under oath. Inspector General saying this is credible. There is something here. And if it's not, if these people are lying, then I mean, this is the biggest hoax, of all time. But there are really objects in the sky. We do see them. Pilots see them with their eyes. They show up on sensors. They show up on radar. They really do exist. And we really don't have prosaic, easy answers to describe what they are. Unidentified does not automatically mean alien. And from a scientific perspective, they look at it as, well, there's an unlimited number of things we haven't thought of yet that they could be. But I would suggest in reality, there really is only a few reasonable options. And we have to consider that if life can exist here, it can exist elsewhere. It's a reasonable proposition. And it really does appear that these could be visitors from another planet. And if that's the case, then 20 years from now, you'll be sitting with your grandchildren. They'll be asking you what it was like, but we thought we were the only ones out there. And you'll be able to tell them, and that's going to be amazing. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, James W., for that roughly 5-minute closing. Praise, let's give you the same amount of time, roughly 3 to 5 minutes, for a concluding statement. Go ahead.
Man, I appreciate you, SOT, for hosting this and setting this up. This is the best debate channel, hands down, and it's a pleasure to be here every time that these discussions. And I also appreciate the stimulating discussion tonight from James. James brought up salient points, but I don't think they undercut or challenged the data and the information that I brought to tonight through the sources I brought tonight in my in my opening and the presentation. I mean, Jacques Vallée, Alan Hynek, I mean, these guys are secular. They're not, I mean, we can't say that they have some type of biasness. In fact, I mean, most of the people that respect them are secular. I mean, they get a big following, and they make it clear, like, there's no such thing as extraterrestrials, that these things are paranormal in nature. And they mention other people as well. I mean, in their own field of research. And I would just say, like, for people that are questioning this, to look at their work, Alan Hynek and Jacques Vallée. I mean, these are two pioneers in the field. They've been around over 40 years, worth of 40 years of stuff going on. And I just think it's impossible to dismiss the data that was brought tonight. I think from all sorts of different sources I brought out, Keel, Mack, and so many others. Also, I brought up, so like these type of researchers and their data and their information is becoming almost unavoidable now, that these are spiritual demonic activities going on, and they don't have, I mean, these are malevolent entities. They are nefarious. They have a nefarious agenda, and you wouldn't expect that if in James' worldview, if these things were just naturalistic, evolutionary, I mean, or creations of evolution, like these things. And how are they buzzing around the universe, with the constraints, the physical constraints? I love, talking with James, but I think, disrespectfully, he did not address the paradoxes tonight, the limitations, the Fermi paradox, and then he kind of went into a little bit of the Drake equation, but that has been dismissed too. I mean, there's really nothing that you could even appeal to even say that these things are real scientifically. And I think they would have to be in our solar system, but there's just no evidence of that. So again, Fermi's paradox, I think, eliminates and negates James' position. So yes, we have a spiritual war on our hands. And I pray and hope that everyone here listening tonight turns to Jesus Christ. That's your only protection. And not only do you get the protection, you also have eternal life and hope of the afterlife. So turn to him. And Jesus even knows the hairs on your head. That's how much he loves you. And I wish that the people that don't have a relationship with him, will get to experience that someday, including James. And with that, I'll end it. And thank you so much. God bless.
All right. Praise. Very good. Gentlemen, I appreciate the concluding statements. 2 hours has flown by. I do appreciate the time you've both given to us. And we're going to get into some of these audience questions. So as usual, on this channel, we do have the best audience on YouTube. And so we've got a ton of questions, a lot of very interesting questions. So what I'll do is put the timer on, and we will get through as many questions as we can, and then allow people to move over to a couple after shows. And so, okay, here we go. Starting with Born Again RN. Question for both. Considering alien encounters tend to resemble human anatomical features, for example, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, what are your thoughts of aliens being possessed humans? Since praise just ended, why don't we start with you, James?
Right. So I would say Praise brought this up. Like, why do they kind of look like us? And, well, there's a couple different factors. We have, it's called convergent evolution, which is where different beings in different places evolve similar traits because it just happens to be advantageous. The basic body structure for the human body is a good body structure for an intelligent being. It could be that, or what I have heard, and I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I have heard that these beings that we are seeing interacting with us they may not be the they're there. Like, they're not the ultimate beings that created this. The beings that we're interacting with are artificially created, that they are created for us to interact with. And that was because that when they did a DNA analysis, this is just a claim. I mean, can't have evidence of it, but the claim was that their DNA had no junk DNA, which is what we get from, we really do get these junk DNA accumulation from evolution, but theirs didn't have any. So it looked like what our DNA would look like if it was designed, but we're not designed, we're naturally occurring. Theirs looks designed. So the idea is that they're an artificially created by some other race that sends them here to probably to investigate us, to figure out what's going on this rock in the distant part of the solar system.
Thank you, James. Praise, the floor is yours.
I think it's a very interesting question, and I might disagree with the wording, aliens being possessed humans. I don't think they are human. I think they're able to inhabit some type of reptilian, cold type of skin. Like, it's hard to explain what type of skin it would be, but I think it's more reptilian. That's funny because the Bible calls demons like all bunch of reptiles, like snakes and other sorts of reptiles. So I think that they can manifest in these type of physical bodies, but they're not human bodies. And I think that's because, like, it goes back to like Adam and Eve having a belly button. You had to be born through the womb. So these things are not born through the womb, but they can materialize or manifest to us visually, I think, in these snake skin, whatever reptilian skin things there with the bug. I think you call them bugs. Yeah, bug-eyed creatures. But very good question, though.
All right, very good. I appreciate the answers from the both of you. Okay, next question comes in from, let's see here. Fulfill the Dream. Appreciate the super chat. Question is for James. How do you contend with the findings from Jacques Vallée? He has done extensive research on the extraterrestrial phenomena, and he says these are interdimensional entities. Other people have said the same thing. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, he does make that claim. Jacques Vallée, by the way, I do not believe he's a Christian, and he does affirm crash retrievals that have been made. So he is conceding that there is at least some physicality to this. There are actual craft that have been retrieved and are being reverse engineered. But he doesn't take that these guys are demons. That's not his theory on it. He does think that it tends to be interdimensional. These are beings in another dimension interacting with us, and that they have over the generations presented themselves in different ways at different times based on what humanity was amenable to at that time. That there's been some type of ultimate purpose, or they're trying to help us or guide us or teach us in a way. And now they've decided to come as what kind of looks like aliens, so as not to frighten us, because their true nature would be more than we could comprehend. It would be more ontologically shocking than them just being aliens from another planet. So yeah, there's a number of different theories out there, and there could be an interdimensional component to this that's not foreclosed. My main contention is that these are non-human intelligence, whether you call them aliens from another planet, interdimensional beings, or the time traveler hypothesis has been thrown out. They could be time travelers. We just don't have all the data because they won't let us see it. And maybe if they let us see it and we get the broader scientific community access to it, then maybe we'll actually be able to narrow some of this down.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Praise, floor is yours.
Yeah, and I would just, voice that Jacques Vallée is probably the most prominent, prolific researcher in these fields. And I don't know where James got that Vallée didn't attribute these two demons, but he definitely says paranormal. I even cited, I gave a citation in my opening. So paranormal equals demonic, and maybe someone has a different definition of paranormal, but in my definition of paranormal that I've looked at, it definitely means demonic. So that's Jacques Vallée, but also his partner Alan Hynek has plainly said these are demonic entities, and they were together for, several decades before Alan Hynek died in 1986. These guys are really highly regarded. Like, I don't know who in the secular world would even come close to them as far as researchers go, but I think Fulfill the Dream is spot on. Yeah, Jacques Vallée, he attributes these to paranormal phenomenon. Great point.
Appreciate it. Praise. James, you get the last word. Question was for you.
Yeah, I don't think J. Allen Hynek or Jacques Vallée would say that the explanation is demons within the Christian paradigm, within the context of Christianity, that these beings described in the Bible are what's interacting with us. I don't think either of them would say that. Maybe you could say that parts of some of these beings are analogous. Maybe they're malevolent. Maybe they kind of fill in that role of being what you might consider a demon, but not within the paradigm of Christianity.
Okay, thank you, James. Next question comes in from Clint Little. It's a tough one, Praise. He's coming at you. He's bringing the heat. So he says, will you give up on free grace if you find out that aliens are being taught water baptism for the remission of sins, just as earthlings are in Mark 16:15-16?
No. I think that these things are subject to Jesus, so I would never, give them any type of, I guess, it comes down to, what's what I'm looking for? Like, I wouldn't attribute anything to them as far as authority. Like, my authority is Jesus Christ. He is the living God. He came here in the human form, and he's the second person of the Trinity. And yeah, that's who I'm subject to, and these things are subject to him as well. So no, free grace. That there's two parts of salvation. There's your justification and sanctification; those are separated. And once you are justified, you are eternally sanctified, and you're eternally secure. So I would never do that.
Very good. And Praise, you've got a debate coming up on that. Topic.
I do. Isn't that interesting? That question came up,
James, which means we got to get you on the debate schedule and roster as well for the future. We got to find you an interlocutor for maybe something creation related. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Well, I would say, this is actually kind of interesting because, whereas people would think that this would be like a death nail to Christianity, but people don't realize that Christianity's evolved so much. Like, the positions that Christians have today, what you guys consider mainline Bible believing Christian, these positions were all fringe. Like, in the past, there was no point until the past maybe 150 years where Christians believed the doctrines that you guys believe today. They were all fringe, and then they all kind of got assimilated over time. But you go back, even the reformers, Martin Luther, he believed in water baptism. You guys don't believe in that. They believed in a real presence in the communion. You guys don't believe in that. They believed in things like apostolic succession. You guys don't believe in that. Priesthood of all believers. You guys believe that. That was rejected by them. But the Christianity has evolved so much over the years, and it will continue to evolve. It's not going away tomorrow or a year from now or 50 years from now. Like nature evolves, religion evolves too, and it will be able to assimilate alien life into it. And you guys can go and baptize aliens at the church, and
That word evolved is banned from this channel, James W. So this is the last one.
I should have given another trigger.
Trying to trigger the. I'm just kidding. It's all good. So, okay, I appreciate it. Well, Praise, the question was for you, so we'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that James is interested in these topics because maybe the Holy Spirit's drawing him in back, to the faith, and we'd love to have him on our team, and just like every other non-believer out there. I think maybe I misunderstood the question. So, if aliens, are you saying that there'd be another gospel for aliens, though? And I don't think so.
I think it's more tongue in cheek. I think
no, okay.
Because
if Jesus brought another gospel out there and he made it known and clear that, hey, these are the gospel for the aliens, I don't know, and how that would affect us. But it's an interesting question, though.
Gulfside
like
Ministries.
With Mormonism, maybe like with Mormonism, Jesus made an appearance on the other planet like he did in America. Just throwing that out there.
Gulfside Ministries says, somehow I wasn't expecting baptismal regeneration in an aliens versus demons debate. We like our debates to be unpredictable. You never know what kind of questions are going to pop up. So, okay, very good. Let's see what we got next. Okay, we've got a question from Echoing Erudite. Question for James. Besides assuming the intentions of aliens and imagining unknown flying objects are not human-made, how do you have evidence of aliens from another planet? Take your time, James.
Right. Well, it's not any one thing. So you can form your beliefs from evidence or from a lack of evidence. And the fact that we've been seeing these things for 80 years and we still don't have a coherent explanation for what they are. In fact, the possible explanations that we do have seem pretty silly. There's no viable non-alien explanation that I've encountered that explains what these things are, what they're doing. And that doesn't automatically mean they're aliens. I'm not saying I know for 100% or with any type of certainty. I'm just saying that I believe that it is a viable, a possible avenue that we need to explore. Obviously, there's a lot of data that we don't have yet that they won't let us see. They won't let us see it. They say we can't handle it. It'd be too dangerous to let us know all the information that they have. I don't think it's too dangerous. I think that this technology is very valuable. There are a lot of people who've made a lot of money off of this. And yeah, we can handle it. We're big boys. Let us know.
Thank you, James. Praise, floor is yours.
Yeah, I found an investigation or report from a man in Area 51. Let me get his name really quick, but he says that he was in Area 51 and he's on the same level as far as him being legitimate. His name is David Adair. He has first-hand testimony of the craft. And he says that they're symbiotic vehicles, that they're living and breathing, that the skin of the craft itself is living and breathing like it's actual human skin. And he went through that. But this guy look at his reputation. He's not a crackpot. Like, no one would consider him a crackpot as far as I know. But to me, if it's a living vehicle, if it's living the way we understand it, then it's not from this world. It would have to be non-worldly in another dimension. And I think that makes sense with the living God. He's a living God. He's not the God of the living, but not of the dead, but the living. Luke 20:38. But I just wanted people to check that out. Yeah.
Thank you, Praise. James, you get the last word. Go ahead.
And so when we're analyzing these crafts, so the question was asked to David Grush, how do we know that these are not from Earth? And the answer was the isotopic ratios of these compounds that these crafts are made of indicate that they are not from Earth. If we look at the elements on Earth, the isotopic ratios seem to line up. If we get something from another planet, it's going to have different ratios of the isotopes. A lot of that has to do with being exposed to cosmic rays indicates an object has been through deep space, not protected by a magnetic field like the Earth has. So it's made of different stuff, the same elements, different isotopes that do not naturally occur on Earth. We have different alloys of magnesium and bismuth that have been found, which don't normally occur together. And we have no idea why anyone would make that. It's these metamaterials that have been found that don't seem to be from Earth, don't seem to be made on Earth.
Okay, thank you very much, James, for that final word. Next question comes in from Kevin's Biblical Discussions. Question for James. Have you ever heard of Project Bluebeam? And why does calling on the name of Jesus stop these aliens?
So I'm not familiar with Project Bluebeam. It does sound like something I've probably read about in the past. Maybe some type of like fake rapture scenario where they're going to project a hologram in the sky and pretend it's Jesus coming down. I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I have heard that before. But in terms of calling on the name of Jesus for these aliens, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of these encounters could be vivid dreams that people are having. And if they expect that to happen because of their belief system, then that's what's going to happen in the dream. They call on Jesus, they disappear. It's not a real event. It's just like if you're in Iran and you're possessed by demons and you call the Imam out, well, he does rituals on you based on Muhammad and Allah, and the demons seem to respond to that. So it seems to be based upon what the person in their mind is expecting, their beliefs and preconceived notions that are influencing these experiences and how they interpret them.
Thank you, James. Praise for is yours.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think James is maybe maybe like I think James, you could look a little bit more into this. Maybe you're like what's the word I'm looking for? Like underestimating it, I think. Yeah. So if you, this is part of in my opening presentation, David Clark, just look up David Clark. And like he mentions the mass amount of accounts of the name of Jesus, how they flee away. And that the thing is that their dreams didn't just end after that. It kept on going. And these things would leave them, but they would still be in the same place though. So I don't take that excuse. I think that's an excuse or trying to explain it away rather than to address it. And we even have an account of a wife who actually watched her husband levitate in the bed. He levitated up off the bed, and they had something up his rectum. And the rectum, like he goes, in the name of Jesus, and then he dropped to the bed, and the wife saw it. So it's like we even have either they're crackpots and liars, or this is some real supernatural paranormal phenomena, and Jesus is the only way for those things to evacuate out of their presence. But most of the times, so that they don't the dream doesn't immediately stop there. So that's just false. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you, Praise. James, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Right, so like claims levitation, I don't know if you're aware, Praise, but this was actually a phenomenon during the Middle Ages called flying saints, where Christians would claim that their saints would fly around in the cathedrals Superman style. Does anybody think that really happened, or are we thinking they're all liars, or were they all delusional? I don't know. We just have no evidence for these things happening, these dreams that people have. People have all sorts of claims, like there's multiple Christians we dealt with on our channel who have claimed that Jesus took them on guided tours of hell, and all the different things that they saw, and the different Christians believe those claims, and some of them don't. And at the end of the day, we just don't have any way of corroborating these. We have claims all over the place. We don't have any way of corroborating it, and you're just going to interpret it based on your belief system, and that's how Praise does it. That's how Donny does it. You guys just interpret these events based on your version of Christianity.
Okay, thank you, James, for that final word. Okay, we got a question from L Ram. Question for both guests. What's your take on physics being what we can materially test and see, and the supernatural being what we cannot see nor test yet hypothesize to be out there? Why don't we start with praise, since James started with the previous one?
It's a good question. And I think a lot of assumptions, naturalistic assumptions, go into physics, especially when you go into quantum mechanics. And I'm not trying to make like quantum mechanics and trying to make it like some type of, science out there that I forget the word they call it, something science, voodoo science, I forget what they call it, but like there's just so many assumptions in that, but materially test and see. Now, just because we don't have the technology that hasn't caught up with it doesn't mean it's not possible that there are, the immaterial out there. So we can't detect it currently because our technology hasn't caught up with it yet. But I do think there's things and assumptions that are, especially in quantum mechanics, that everything around us is like realism. It's called a philosophical position called realism. And that has been debunked. That was by, the Nobel Peace Prize winners lately. Anton Zellinger, he debunked that the idea of realism, that outside of our perception is physical reality, that has been largely overturned. That is no longer a valid hypothesis. So we got to be careful with our assumptions we bring into science. Science only deals with testable, observable things according to our empirical understanding. But then again, that is limited itself, because what do you even undergird the scientific method with? There has to be the laws of logic or something that is immutable. But I'll leave it there. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, praise. James, floor is yours.
Well, so, I mean, I would say that I'm a naturalist. I would say that I do believe that the confounds of the physical world could be greater than what we have access to or what we're aware of right now. So I wouldn't consider these things to be supernatural outside the natural world. They could just be undetectable to us, so that we haven't learned to perceive yet. Like, we didn't always know that there was ultraviolet light. Ultraviolet light is a natural phenomenon. It's clearly part of the natural world. We didn't know it because our eyes didn't evolve to be able to perceive it. We had to build tools and make observations to be able to detect it. Now that we detect it, it is as physical as the light that we see. Our eyes are just not tuned to those frequencies. So, yeah, I'm open to the natural world being bigger than what we currently have access to, but I wouldn't call that supernatural.
James, appreciate it. So we got so many questions here, and I'm trying to figure out what might be the most relevant. Why don't we get a scriptural question in here? So Ronsky, question about Colossians 1:20. I feel like it'll be more so directed at you, praise. Doesn't that verse show that Jesus came for the salvation of all mankind? So that means that not only the elect can be saved, but anyone who desires.
What a great question. Colossians 1:20. Isn't it say he's the invisible or whatever? He's the things that are invisible, that he's sovereign over. And I would agree that the Bible talks about invisible realities, and we're seeing that in these alien phenomena that lines with the Bible. So the Bible seems to be ahead of everyone else in science. Even I would say that in Genesis 1:1, it said that there was the beginning of the universe that was foretold of thousands and thousands of years ago. So I think the Bible is way ahead of, of course, because it's inspired by God, but it means that not only the elect can be saved, but anyone who desires. I have to listen to that. Can someone read that verse? Because I don't have it handy.
Colossians 1:20. I can pull it up. Let's see. Colossians. So the verse says, and having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things unto himself. By him, I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven. So in relation to this debate, I think he might be arguing if there were aliens, then they would also apply to salvation. Maybe if Romsky's in the chat and wanted to provide a little more context, but
yeah, I see where he might be going with that verse, right? Everything anything in heaven and on earth would be universal. I would agree that not only the elect can be saved, but anyone who desires, and like people have to be open-minded to that. Like, what if even the Nephilim? What if they might be able to do that? Who knows? Because they're part of heaven too. But these are things that we can only speculate on. But I'm what me as being open-minded, so I give the possibility to things like Nephilim, demons, or whatever. They might be saved later. I don't know specifically the situation, so I don't know, but it seems to be open to that, a universal. I don't mean universalism, like everyone will be saved, but that it's not just particular to a specific, only one-sided biased viewpoint.
okay, thank you, Praise. James, any thoughts?
I mean, isn't it kind of just interesting, these theological debates that have been going on for centuries now, and each side seems to have their verses, and even on things like soteriology, one of the most important things, probably the most important thing in the world, and Christians can't all agree on it. They all have each side has their verses, they all have their beliefs on it, and nothing's ever resolved. No one side clearly wins because the other side still has verses. They still have their verses that say it's not by faith alone. The other side has verses that say it is faith alone. So you never know. At least in science, we actually resolve things and we move on. We don't debate the same things forever. And I would say that Christians actually, like, the Bible doesn't make predictions. And this is the thing, like, Christians, what they do is they look at reality and then they go back through the Bible and try to find something that matches it. So, like, Christians were not telling us, like, oh, I mean, I know we haven't found them yet. There's going to be this race of large reptile-like ancestors that used to roam the earth. They're extinct now, but they used to be there. Like, no, they didn't tell us about dinosaurs. What happened was we found dinosaurs, and then the Christians went back through the Bible and, like, is there anything in here we can possibly say looks like a dinosaur? And the book is so big, they inevitably find something. Oh, okay, there you go. That's a dinosaur. So it's consistent with the Bible, but they're not making predictions that we don't already have access to, or knowledge that we don't already know.
Okay, appreciate it, James. Praise, you get the last word.
As far as controversies within the church, these have been non-essential. These are things just for us to spar back and forth, and to iron sharpens iron. So I don't know what James is squawking about, and maybe he isn't squawking, but to me, it's a non-issue. That the things that are essential is that we must believe Jesus is the Messiah, and that he died, was buried, and resurrected on the third day. And if you believe that, you shall have eternal life. That's the gospel. That is indisputed throughout Orthodox Christianity through history, from the first church fathers throughout. Now, as far as works and all these other things, I think those are peripheral issues. I don't think they can. I guess they could. Sometimes they could cross over, maybe to the essential, but most of the time, no. These are not issues that we need to worry about, most of them.
Praise, appreciate the final word. Okay, we're getting through a good amount of these questions, and definitely a lot of good questions from the audience. So let's see this question from Mars Hill. Question. Guessing this is for you, Praise, because it's biblical, but James, you'll have a chance to respond too. Do you think Revelation 16:13 is the Bible directly speaking of aliens / demons acting like aliens? The verse saying they'll look like frogs.
I think there's definitely an association to that. Yes, I do think it might even be implicit, maybe not explicit, but it could be implicit. But I think yes, there's definitely a possibility that it's talking about aliens there, or maybe not even directly, it could be indirectly, but somehow I do think that would be tied to that. Yes. But we do know in Daniel and other places that there's something some people call the Watchers, and they're in some invisible realm. And it makes sense that these things, these entities, are probably the Watchers, and they're doing their diligence because they know they're called knowers too. They have knowledge, specific knowledge that people don't have, so they know how to manipulate and turn people away from the Christian faith. And that's really what they're doing, but they'll do it in non-assuming ways. But yes, I think Revelation 16:3 could be an indirect association with demons, aliens. Yes.
Praise. I appreciate it, my brother. James, floor is yours. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Christians have been reading this Revelation passage for centuries, and they always were able to apply it to what was going on at the time, even before we even knew that there were other planets or galaxies, stars, whatever. So now that we do know that, they're kind of working it in as aliens. But it's just funny that the Christianity, they say, or the Bible really seems to have it out for frogs. Like even in the Old Testament, like the creator of the universe, he could do whatever he wants, but he plagues Egypt with frogs, like frogs everywhere, frogs here, frogs there, frogs everywhere, lots of frogs, devastating plague. I don't know.
Praise. Did you want a quick final word?
Yeah, it's sort of, I think James is going like pareidolia or something. You just see anything you want to see in there. I mean, but see, even if frogs are symbolic, they would be symbolic of something that's demonic. And like the symbology itself has always been associated with aliens, the same symbology. I mean, you're just going to wipe it, or you're just going to push it aside and say it's a coincidence. All these things align with the Bible. And I just don't think, I'm not that brave to do that.
Okay, praise. I appreciate it. Gentlemen, we are in bonus minutes again, as this debate has been comprehensive. It's been a ton of fun. What we'll do is wrap it up there. I do want to respect the time you've given to us, and also the fact that we have a couple of after shows that people might want to tune into or even join. And so praise, James. I appreciate you guys doing this debate. It was a ton of fun. And I personally look forward to re-listening to it and absorbing a lot more of the points you both made in your openings. Let's get some final words, final thoughts. James, let's start with you. Glad to have you here tonight. Final words, final thoughts.
Well, thank you, Praise, for responding to a lot of the points I made, and I think you made some points for your case that were stimulating and interesting to entertain. I mean, the thing with this topic is it's so broad-based. There's so many things we didn't get to talk about because there's just so much here. But I think we did about the best we could given the time. And I thank you, Donny, for having me. It was I had a good time, and we'll be on the Amy Newman channel shortly.
Okay, James, I appreciate it. Praise. Thank you for doing this. I also look forward to your next debate on soteriology. You're really mixing it up. A debate on aliens and demons, and next a debate on soteriology. So great to have you. Final words, final thoughts.
Oh, it's great to be here, man. Love your channel, your platform. Love what you're doing. It's my favorites, and I'm glad people are catching on to it. And I second what James said. It was a stimulating discussion. A lot of these things, yeah, I don't consider myself an expert, but yeah, a lot of these things could go into the weeds, and there's just so many details that we might not even consider yet. It gets really in depth, but I really enjoyed James. I thought he was very cordial. He's very sophisticated the way he makes his arguments, and I appreciate that. And maybe we'll have another discussion someday. But yeah, I'm looking for the next debate with Dan Chapa. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's in my wheelhouse. This isn't really my wheelhouse, but I love this. I love this topic, though. But I appreciate SFT, and as I say, God bless everyone. I will have an after show. I'll be attending here in a few moments, so come on over.
All right, Praise. I appreciate the final words, James and Praise. Thanks again for giving us a comprehensive debate on a topic that is not frequently debated. And so I would argue this was a debate to remember on aliens and UFOs. To the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate all the support, the questions, the feedback, and the engagement. If you want to see more from our guests tonight, Praise and James, check the description box where you can find the relevant links. Okay, with that, everybody, God bless. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 EST for a show on human evolution with myself and Dr. Peter Line. God bless all.